Welcome to Just a Little Better, a place where we slow down, breathe, and learn something small that makes life feel a little clearer. Today, we begin a new series, a gentle journey into the art of understanding people before a single word is spoken. This is episode 1, inspired by The Face Never Lies, from the Human Radar series. And in this first chapter, we'll explore one simple, powerful truth. The face speaks long before the voice does. So take a moment, get comfortable, relax your shoulders, and let's ease into this together. Every day, without realizing it, you are reading people. A small flicker in someone's eyes, a gentle shift around their mouth, a tension in their brow, that appears for less than a second. None of these moments are random. They're signals, quiet messages from the emotional brain, revealing what a person feels, before they have time to hide it, shape it, or put their professional mask on. We like to believe that words tell the story. But in reality, the face speaks first, and it speaks honestly. Because while language is controlled, the face is reactive. It responds faster than thought, faster than intention, and faster than the mask someone hopes to wear. Emotions appear in tiny bursts of movement, so quick we often miss them. But once you begin noticing, you can never unsee them. So why does this happen? It begins deep inside the brain, in the limbic system, our emotional center. When something happens, a question, a surprise, a threat, a compliment, the emotion arrives instantly. In less than a second, the brain sends signals to the tiny muscles in the face. A slight lift of the brows, a tightening around the eyes, a subtle shift of the lips. These reactions are called micro-expressions. They last between January 25th and 1/5 of a second. Too fast to fake, too fast to stop, and far too honest to ignore. Even when someone wants to appear calm, confident, or neutral, the truth still slips through, for just a moment. Maybe it's doubt. Maybe curiosity. Maybe discomfort. Maybe even excitement they didn't want to reveal yet. Whatever it is, the face shows the emotion before the mind can cover it. Another remarkable thing is that many facial expressions are universal. A smile of genuine joy, a flash of surprise, a moment of fear, a look of disgust. Across countries, cultures, and even remote communities, humans recognize the same emotional patterns. Which means your ability to read others isn't a special talent. It's human. It's natural. It's something you've carried since childhood. What changes is whether we pay attention. And when we observe gently, without judgment, we begin to see others more clearly and more compassionately. In today's world, communication is fast, complex, and often filtered. People rehearse what they want to say. They rewrite their messages. They polish their presentations. But the face doesn't rehearse. It doesn't edit. It doesn't lie. Understanding facial microsignals becomes a quiet superpower. Whether you're in a meeting, talking with someone you care about, or simply observing a stranger at a cafe, awareness helps you respond with more clarity, more empathy, and more confidence. You notice hesitation before it becomes an objection. You sense excitement before the person expresses it. You see discomfort before it turns into conflict. You stop reacting and you start understanding. Here's a calm, simple way to begin training your awareness. The next time you speak with someone, pause for just one moment, right after you ask a question. Don't rush, just observe. You might notice a tiny lift of the brows, a subtle tightening of the mouth, or a brief emotional flash before their answer begins. That moment, the moment before speech, is where truth often lives. You don't need to comment on it. You don't need to judge it. Just notice. Awareness alone sharpens intuition in a natural, gentle way. In the next part of our journey, we'll explore the emotional brain even more deeply and discover why micro-expressions are truly impossible to hide. Thank you for listening and for choosing to grow just a little better with me. Take a slow breath and be kind to yourself. And now, as we continue this gentle exploration, let's look deeper into the emotional engine behind every expression. When we see a flicker in someone's eyes, or a subtle change around their mouth, it may seem small on the surface, but something incredibly powerful is happening inside the brain. It begins in a place called the limbic system, the part of us that reacts before we think, before we choose, before we prepare any words. This emotional center has only one purpose: to protect us, to alert us, to help us respond quickly to whatever is happening around us. When something catches our attention, a tone of voice, a sudden movement, a difficult question, a compliment we didn't expect, the limbic system fires instantly. And in that instant, it sends tiny electrical signals to the muscles in the face. A slight pull of the brows, a tiny tightening around the eyes, a soft tension in the lips. These small movements are not decisions, they are reactions, pure, unfiltered, and completely honest. Micro-expressions. They happen so quickly that most people never notice them, lasting only a fraction of a second. But they're fast because the emotional brain moves faster than the thinking brain. You can prepare your words. You can adjust your posture. You can choose your tone. But you cannot stop that first emotional spark from appearing on your face. And that is why micro-expressions are impossible to fake and impossible to hide. Even people who try to keep a perfectly neutral face, the poker face we all know, still have tiny leaks of real feeling. A small flash of fear when they receive unexpected news, a faint spark of excitement when something interests them, a moment of discomfort that slips through before they can control it. The conscious mind tries to mask it, but only after the emotion has already appeared. That is the sequence. Emotion first, face second, mask third. What most people see is the mask. What the trained observer sees is the moment just before it. And once you notice it, everything feels clearer. But it's also important to remember that while micro-expressions are universal, people learn to manage their visible emotions in different ways. Some cultures encourage smiling more. Some encourage hiding anger. Some teach children to stay neutral, even when they feel something strongly. So the intentional face may differ. But the unintentional face, the momentary flash of truth, remains the same. This is why reading people is not about judging them. It's about understanding their emotional reality beneath the surface. Understanding brings clarity. Clarity brings compassion. And compassion changes the way we communicate. To gently build this awareness, try something simple. During your next conversation, after you ask a question, give the person just one quiet moment. Don't fill the silence. Don't rush their answer. Just watch softly. You may notice a quick lift of their brows, a hesitation in their lips, a flicker in their eyes, before they speak. You don't need to interpret it deeply. You don't need to draw conclusions. Just notice. Awareness is the first step to developing your own human radar, a natural, intuitive sense for what people feel beneath the words they choose. And with gentle practice, this awareness becomes clearer, softer, and beautifully human. As we move forward, our next chapter will take us into one of the most expressive and telling parts of the face, the eyes. The first place emotion appears, and the last place it can hide. And now, as we continue our quiet journey into reading the face, we come to one of the most revealing parts of human expression, the eyes. Long before the mouth reacts, long before the brows lift or the lips shift, the eyes respond. They respond to emotion, to tension, to curiosity, to fear, to interest, to truth. And they do it before a person even realizes anything has changed. The eyes are the first place where emotion arrives, and the last place where emotion can hide. Even when someone manages to keep their face still, their eyes often tell a story they didn't intend to share. The eyes reveal many things, but let's begin with something simple. Anxiety. When a person feels anxious, even for a moment, the muscles around the eyes tighten slightly. The blink rate changes. Sometimes it speeds up, sometimes it slows down. Both are signs of inner tension. The gaze becomes less steady. The eyelids may narrow. The upper face seems to strain, just a little more than usual. It's not dramatic. It's often tiny, but it's there. And once you learn to see it, you recognize it instantly. Another feeling the eyes reveal, beautifully, naturally, is interest, emotional or intellectual. When someone is genuinely engaged, their eyes soften, the pupils may widen. As the brain becomes more active, their gaze becomes steady, focused, and quietly alive. And when the interest becomes emotional, a sense of connection, attraction, warm curiosity, the eyes brighten. It's gentle, almost glowing, like someone turned up a small light inside them. This brightness cannot be faked convincingly. It's a limbic response, the brain signaling, I like this, I like you, I want more. But the eyes also show authority. Not dominance, not aggression, but the natural confidence that comes from clarity and self-assurance. When a person feels grounded, their gaze is steady, but relaxed. They don't dart their eyes away. They don't blink excessively. They don't avoid contact, nor cling to it. Their eyes simply hold space, with quiet strength. This type of eye contact feels safe, not forceful. It communicates, I know where I stand. I am comfortable with myself. I'm here with you. Authority in the eyes is subtle and the most powerful form of confidence. And then there is hidden emotion, the feelings people try not to show. This is where the eyes become the clearest window. When someone is trying to hide discomfort, the eyes may shift sideways for just a moment, as if looking for an escape. When someone is trying to hide sadness, the lower eyelids soften and rise slightly, even if their smile remains. When someone wants to appear strong, but feels uncertain, their gaze breaks just before they speak. These moments are delicate. They ask for patience, for kindness, for understanding. Because behind every hidden emotion is a story that the person may not be ready to express. Noticing these signals is not about exposing them. It's about approaching them with empathy. Seeing people gently, listening beyond words, creating space for real connection. If you'd like to practice this part of your human radar, try something simple. During your next conversation, pay attention to the moment when the other person first reacts, with their eyes. Not when they talk, not when they move, just the eyes. Do they brighten? Do they tense? Do they soften? Do they pull away? Do they try to hold contact a little longer than usual? These small signals tell you more than any sentence ever could. You don't need to analyze. You don't need to judge. Simply notice. Awareness alone is enough for now. And as we move forward, our next chapter will take us to something we think we understand well, but often misread. The smile, one of the most misunderstood signals on the human face. A smile is one of the first things we notice when we meet someone. It feels warm, familiar, and beautifully human. But the smile is also one of the most misunderstood signals on the face. Because not all smiles mean the same thing. Some smiles are true, some are polite, some are strategic, some are used to hide discomfort, and some are used to soften a moment that feels too heavy to carry alone. The challenge is learning to sense the difference. And it begins with understanding the nature of a genuine smile. A real smile, a smile of authentic joy, comes from deep inside the emotional brain. It isn't just the mouth that moves. The eyes join in too. The muscles around the eyes tighten in a gentle, natural way. The cheeks lift. The face brightens, almost as if the whole being is smiling along. This is called a Duchenne smile, the truest expression of happiness. You've seen it in children, in moments of surprise, in genuine affection, and in those rare times when someone forgets to guard themselves. A genuine smile is full face, full-hearted, and impossible to fake convincingly. But then, there's another kind of smile. The kind we use because we're polite, because we want to maintain harmony, because we're in a professional setting, because we don't want to reveal what we're actually feeling. This smile often involves only the mouth. The lips curl upward, but the eyes stay neutral. It's not dishonest. It's simply social. A way of saying, I'm here. I'm listening. I want this moment to go smoothly. And in many cultures, this smile is considered respectful, even expected, so it shouldn't be judged. But it is different from genuine joy, and learning to recognize that difference helps us understand people more clearly and respond more compassionately. There is also the strategic smile, a smile used with purpose, in persuasion, in negotiation, in situations where someone wants to influence the tone or direction of a conversation. This smile is controlled, deliberate, and timed. It may appear at the moment someone wants to soften tension, or create connection, or redirect attention, or make a request feel more agreeable. Again, this isn't wrong. It's a part of how humans communicate, but it is different from genuine emotional warmth. The strategic smile is performed by the mouth, not the eyes. And if you look closely, you'll sense it. A real smile feels alive. A strategic smile feels placed, like a small costume, carefully worn, for a specific moment. And then there's the smile that hides something. The smile someone uses when they're uncomfortable, or nervous, or conflicted, but don't want that feeling to be seen. They smile to protect themselves, or to avoid being questioned, or simply because they don't know what else to do. In these moments, the smile may look pleasant, but the eyes soften downward, or the jaw tenses, or the corners of the mouth don't rise evenly. This smile is gentle, but it carries weight. It's a mask, trying to make the emotion underneath a little easier to carry. Seeing this type of smile asks for patience and kindness, because there is a story beneath it that isn't ready to emerge. Noticing it doesn't mean confronting it. It simply means you are listening beyond the surface. If you'd like to practice reading smiles more clearly, try something simple. The next time you see someone smile, don't focus on the mouth. Focus on the eyes. Ask yourself softly, do the eyes join in? Do they brighten? Do they tighten naturally? Do they stay still while the mouth moves? And then, just notice. Not to judge, not to label, just to understand. Because when you start to see smiles in this gentle way, you begin to see people with more truth and more tenderness. And as we continue, our next chapter brings us to another powerful part of the face. The brows and the forehead, the first responders of emotion, and some of the fastest signals the human body sends. As we move from the softness of the smile, we arrive at a part of the face that reacts even faster, often faster than any other feature. The brows and the forehead. They are the body's first responders, the instant messengers of the emotional brain. Before the mouth shifts, before the eyes fully reveal their story, the brows and forehead often move in tiny, involuntary ways that speak volumes. These movements happen because the muscles here are closely linked to emotional arousal, and they respond at lightning speed. When someone is surprised, you'll often see their brows lift for just a moment, a quick upward arc, like a small burst of light passing through their expression. This happens even when the person tries to stay composed. It's a reflex, a moment where the emotional brain beats the logical brain to the surface. And if the surprise is significant, the forehead may widen, creating small horizontal lines that appear instantly and fade just as quickly. When someone is confused or uncertain, the brows may draw inward, just slightly, forming a gentle crease between the eyes. It's subtle, but unmistakable. This tiny movement shows the mind working, searching, trying to understand or make sense of something. Even if their tone is calm, even if their words are smooth, that inward pull of the brows reveals a quiet question beneath the surface. Wait, what does this mean? And when someone experiences stress or emotional weight, the forehead often becomes the first place to show that tension. The muscles tighten, creating vertical or diagonal lines near the center of the face. Sometimes the eyebrows lift, only on the inner corners, signaling emotional strain, the kind we feel when something touches the heart, not just the mind. This expression is delicate. It often appears in moments of empathy, sadness, or vulnerability. The brows rise, but not in surprise, in softness. It's the look of someone holding a feeling they haven't found words for yet. And then there is skepticism. When a person hears something they don't quite believe, one brow may rise more than the other. A small asymmetry, a hint of doubt, a question unspoken. It's one of the clearest signs that the mind is evaluating, analyzing, testing the information being presented. This expression often lasts less than a second, but it's enough to tell you that what was said didn't land smoothly. Not disagreement, not confrontation, just doubt. The brows and forehead also reveal emotional shifts during conversation. If someone is guarded, their forehead may stay smooth and still, a controlled mask that protects their inner thoughts. If someone is engaged, you'll see more movement, soft lifts, small contractions, little flashes of emotion that escape without permission. These signals are not dramatic. They are quiet, honest, human, and they offer a beautifully subtle insight into what someone is really feeling in the moment. To practice noticing these cues, try watching for the places where movement appears first. Not the mouth, not the words, just the brows and the space between them. During your next conversation, observe gently. Do the brows lift? In surprise or interest? Do they pull inward? In uncertainty? Do they rise softly? In empathy? Do they tense? With stress or pressure? Do they move unevenly, hinting at doubt? You don't need to interpret everything. Just allow yourself to see how quickly the emotional brain arrives on the forehead before it travels anywhere else. This gentle noticing deepens your awareness in a calm, natural way. And as we continue, the next part of our journey takes us to another section of the face that carries secrets people often try to hold back. The lips, the mouth, and the jaw, the quiet keepers of suppressed emotion. From the brows and forehead, our attention moves gently down the face to a place where emotion often hides, in the smallest, quietest ways. The lips, the mouth, and the jaw. While the eyes reveal feelings, and the brows react instantly, this area holds a different kind of truth, a truth people often try to manage, contain, or suppress. The mouth is where speech begins, and because of that, it's also where many emotions struggle to stay unspoken. One of the clearest signs of a suppressed feeling is lip compression. When someone presses their lips together, firmly or gently, they're often holding something in. A thought, a reaction, a feeling they don't want to express. It may happen when they disagree, but don't want conflict, when they're anxious, but don't want to show it, when they're excited, but trying to stay composed, or when they hear something that triggers them more than they expected. This simple motion, lips pressed together, is the emotional brain saying, "I'm keeping this inside. I'm not ready to speak. I need a moment." It's a quiet form of self-regulation, a pause between the emotion and the words that might escape. Another subtle signal is a twitch or tiny pull at the corner of the mouth. This can appear when someone feels uneasy, amused but trying not to show it, or slightly defensive. These micro-movements are fast, barely noticeable, but they reflect the brain negotiating between what is felt and what should remain hidden. The emotional truth pushes outward, the social mask pulls inward. The mouth becomes the middle ground. And then there is the jaw. The jaw is one of the strongest muscles in the body, and it often reacts when emotions intensify. A tightening of the jaw can signal frustration, or restraint, or inner conflict. Sometimes the jaw shifts to one side as the person decides whether to speak honestly or hold back. Sometimes the muscle near the ear pulses slightly, a tiny contraction that reveals tension long before words do. A clenched jaw may belong to someone trying to stay calm while feeling overwhelmed. A shifting jaw may belong to someone trying to choose between honesty and diplomacy. It is one of the clearest signs that something emotional is happening beneath the surface, even when the rest of the face remains still. But the mouth also reveals the softer emotions. When someone feels empathy, their lips often relax, their mouth softens, the entire expression becomes more gentle, more open. When someone feels sadness, that they're trying to hold back, the corners of the lips may tremble ever so slightly, or pull downward, for just a moment, before they recover. These signals are delicate, not meant to be obvious, not meant to be exposed. They are invitations to notice with compassion, not to analyze with judgment. If you want to gently practice reading this part of the face, try paying attention to the moment just before someone speaks. Not after, not during, just before. In that single breath, before words form, the lips may tighten, the jaw may shift, or the mouth may soften. That tiny moment reveals whether the person is preparing to speak freely, or carefully, or not at all. You don't need to comment on it. You don't need to guess meanings. Simply noticing strengthens your intuition in a gentle, natural way. And as we continue our journey together, we move from the place where emotions try to stay hidden to a part of the face that many consider neutral or unreadable, the so-called poker face. But even stillness has a story. And in our next chapter, we'll discover why a neutral expression is never truly empty. From the subtle movements of the lips and jaw, we now shift to a very different part of human expression: stillness. What many people call a poker face. A neutral expression, a blank canvas, a face that gives away nothing. Or so it seems. But the truth is, even stillness is never truly still. The absence of movement does not mean the absence of emotion. It often means the opposite. That emotion is being carefully held, managed, contained, or controlled. A poker face is rarely a natural resting point. It is usually a conscious or subconscious effort to keep something inside. And the harder someone tries to stay neutral, the more the tiny involuntary signals begin to matter. Stillness is often a form of emotional regulation. When a person feels overwhelmed, or unsure, or deeply affected, they may freeze their expression in order to keep the emotion from rising. The muscles become controlled, the eyes steady, the mouth still, the entire face settles into a calm, guarded mask. But beneath that quiet surface, the emotional brain is very much alive. You might notice a slight tightness around the eyes, a small tension in the jaw, a stiffness in the upper face that feels too deliberate to be natural. These subtle cues reveal that stillness is not emptiness. It is effort. There is also another reason people use a poker face: self-protection. Some people learned early in life that showing emotion was unsafe, that vulnerability invited judgment, that softness came with risk. So they learned to hold their feelings behind a neutral mask, not because they lack emotion, but because they feel deeply and have learned to protect those feelings from the outside world. When you recognize this, you stop seeing a poker face as cold or distant. You begin to see it as a kind of quiet courage, a way someone learned to keep themselves safe. And then there is the strategic poker face, the expression used in negotiation, difficult conversations, and high-pressure moments. In these situations, stillness becomes a tool. People freeze their face to avoid revealing their position, their hesitation, or their vulnerability. Even then, small leaks of emotion often escape. A tiny narrowing of the eyes, a single twitch in the jaw, a subtle shift in the mouth, a blink that lasts a fraction too long. These micro-signals are the cracks in the mask, the glimpses of true feeling that appear before control reasserts itself. the stiller the face, the more these tiny leaks matter. Observing a poker face is not about exposing someone. It is about understanding the meaning of stillness. Sometimes, stillness says, I'm overwhelmed. Sometimes, I'm thinking carefully. Sometimes, I'm holding something in. And sometimes, I'm protecting myself. The key is gentle awareness. Not forcing interpretation, not assuming intention, not judging. Just noticing, with a soft, open mind. If you'd like to explore this in practice, try paying attention, not to what moves, but to what doesn't. During your next conversation, notice when someone becomes very still. Does the stillness come after a difficult question, after a personal topic, after something surprising, after something emotional? Then look for the smallest signals beneath the surface. A faint tightening in the eyelids, a quick swallow, a small pulse in the jaw muscle, a subtle breath, held just a little too long. These are the whispers the poker face cannot hide. And when you begin to see them, you are no longer fooled by stillness. You are seeing the truth beneath the calm. As we move forward, our next chapter takes us into the real world, where reading the face becomes not just an insight, but a tool. In negotiation, in interviews, in important conversations, even in everyday interactions, the face reveals what the words do not. And that is where our journey continues. Now that we've explored the stillness of the poker face, we move into a different space, a space where reading the face becomes deeply practical. Negotiations, interviews, presentations, difficult conversations, moments where people choose their words carefully, but their face speaks unconsciously. In these real-world situations, facial signals become not just insights, but gentle tools that help you understand what is happening beneath the surface. Because whenever the stakes rise, emotion rises with them. And wherever emotion rises, the face follows. Let's begin with negotiation, a space where people often try to appear confident, strategic, and in control. But even in the calmest negotiator, microsignals appear. When someone hears a number they don't like, the corners of their mouth may tighten for a moment, their brows may pull inward, their eyes may narrow, just slightly. A tiny leak of discomfort. When someone feels intrigued or sees opportunity, their eyes may brighten, or they may momentarily lift their brows before restoring control. And when someone is uncertain, truly unsure, their blink rate often changes, not dramatically, but enough to reveal a shift in emotional state. These signals are fleeting, but together, they tell you exactly where the conversation stands. In interviews, the face becomes a canvas of inner conflict. Candidates want to present confidence. They want to impress. They want to choose the right words. But when asked a question that touches their insecurity, their face reacts before their answer forms. The jaw may tighten, the lips may press together, the eyes may soften downward, for just a moment. A moment of vulnerability that appears before professionalism takes over. And when they speak about something they truly care about, their eyes brighten, their cheeks lift, and their expression becomes alive, in a way that cannot be faked. Passion is always visible in the face, no matter how composed the individual tries to be. In important conversations, with partners, colleagues, friends, or family, the stakes are emotional. People say one thing and feel another, or they try to soften difficult truths, or they avoid expressing a deeper fear. Here, the face becomes a map of emotional navigation. If someone hears something that touches them deeply, the space between the brows may tighten slightly. If they feel defensive, the jaw may shift, or the lips may press inward. If they feel understood, their entire face may relax, the forehead softening, the mouth easing, the eyes warming. And if they feel hurt, but don't want to show it, there may be a quick downward flicker in the eyes before they look away. These signals are not loud, they're not dramatic, they are delicate, often visible only to someone who watches with patience and empathy. And there is something else, something subtle, but powerful. When someone's words and facial signals do not match, the face always wins. If a person says, "I'm fine," but their eyes tighten, or their lips pull inward, the face reveals the emotional truth. If a person says, "Absolutely, I agree," but their brow lifts unevenly, or their mouth twitches, the face reveals doubt. When words and face disagree, it is never accidental. The emotional brain cannot fully hide what it feels. And once you begin noticing this, conversations become clearer, not to judge, not to confront, but to understand the reality beneath the surface. If you'd like to practice this skill gently, try this. The next time you're in a meaningful conversation, focus less on the words and more on the moment, just before the words begin. Look for the tiny changes in the eyes, the brows, the mouth, the jaw. Notice what shifts when the topic becomes important. Notice what softens when the person feels seen. Notice what tightens when something feels heavy. Each signal is a quiet message from the emotional brain, a message that can guide you to respond with more clarity, more patience, and more compassion. And now, our journey continues into another revealing landscape, moments of tension and emotional conflict. Because when pressure rises, the face speaks louder than ever. In the next chapter, we'll explore how tension builds on the face, long before conflict appears in words. As we enter the territory of tension and conflict, we step into one of the most revealing spaces on the human face. Because when pressure rises, when emotions intensify, when someone feels cornered, challenged, hurt, or overwhelmed, the face often shows the truth, long before the words do. These signals are not dramatic, they're not loud, they're subtle, even quiet, but incredibly honest. And once you learn to notice them, you begin to understand conflict, not as an explosion, but as a gradual build-up that you can see forming long before it arrives. One of the earliest signs of tension is the tightening of the eyelids. Not a full squint, not hostility, just a slight narrowing, a reflex that happens when the emotional brain prepares to protect itself. It may indicate discomfort, skepticism, resentment, or emotional resistance. And it often appears before any disagreement is spoken. Another early signal is the compression of the mouth, that soft but unmistakable pressing of the lips together. This is the face trying to hold something in. A reaction, a disagreement, a feeling that doesn't feel safe to express. Lip compression is one of the clearest signs that the emotional brain is working hard to maintain control. A small protest, hidden beneath politeness. The jaw also becomes active when tension rises. Sometimes it shifts to the side, as if the person is literally chewing on their emotion. Sometimes it tightens, revealing frustration or suppressed anger. Sometimes the muscle near the ear pulses briefly, a microflash of stress, trying to keep itself contained. The jaw rarely lies. It is one of the most expressive places where inner conflict appears. Then we have the space between the brows. When this area begins to narrow, even subtly, it can signal emotional pain, confusion, disapproval, or hurt. A single crease can speak more truth than a paragraph of explanation. This signal often comes before a defensive statement, before a complaint, before the person begins to distance themselves. It is the emotional brain saying quietly, "This matters to me. This hurts. This doesn't feel right." And there is a deeper layer still, the shutdown. When someone feels overwhelmed or emotionally flooded, their face may lose animation. The eyes may lose focus, blinking may slow, the muscles soften or freeze. This is not indifference. It is a protective retreat. The emotional system pulls inward, trying to reduce stimulation and regain a sense of control. Recognizing shutdown is important because it tells you the person doesn't need pressure. They need gentleness, space, a slower pace. Conflict rarely explodes suddenly. It accumulates in the eyes, the mouth, the jaw, the brows. The face reveals each step of the emotional climb. And when you can see these signals early, you gain the ability to respond before things break. A soft question, a slower tone, a moment of empathy, a clearer boundary, a gentle pause. Small actions can shift the emotional direction of a conversation long before conflict becomes visible. To practice this awareness, try watching for tension in its earliest form. Look for the tiny changes, the slight narrowing of the eyes, the tightening of the mouth, the firming of the jaw, the crease between the brows. Observe how these signals rise and fall as topics change. You don't need to fix anything. You don't need to take control. Just noticing gives you more clarity and more calm. Because when you can see tension approaching, you're no longer inside the storm. You're watching its formation with understanding. And that understanding creates space for compassion and wiser choices. As our journey continues, we move towards something deeper. How to bring everything together into awareness, empathy, and true emotional intelligence. Our next chapter will guide you into integrating these insights so you can read people, not just accurately, but kindly. As we arrive at this final chapter of our journey, we step back and look at everything we've explored together. The eyes, the brows, the forehead, the lips, the jaw, the stillness, the tension, the moments before words, the moments beneath words. Each part of the face speaks its own quiet language. Each reveals a different dimension of what it means to be human. And now, we bring it all together. Not as a technique, not as a strategy, but as a gentle way of seeing people more clearly and more compassionately. The first truth to remember is that the emotional brain always speaks first. Before logic, before intention, before language. It appears in a flicker of the eyes, a movement in the brows, a tightening of the mouth, a tension in the jaw, a stillness that feels too still. These tiny signals are not mistakes. They are not flaws. They are windows, glimpses of a person's inner world, visible only for a moment, before the mask returns. When you notice them, you're not reading someone's secrets. You're reading their humanity. The second truth is that people express themselves in different ways. Some faces are open, easy to read, full of movement and emotion. Others are quiet, controlled, carefully composed. Neither is better, neither is wrong. Every expression Every silence, every micro-movement, has a story behind it. A history, a pattern learned over years, a way of navigating the world that once kept them safe. Seeing this with softness changes everything. You stop asking, what is this person hiding? And you begin asking, what has this person lived through that makes them show emotion in this way? This shift is the heart of emotional intelligence. The third truth is that awareness does not require judgment. You don't have to decode everything. You don't have to name every emotion. You don't need perfect accuracy. You only need presence. When you observe with patience, without rushing to conclusions, your intuition naturally sharpens. You feel the shifts. You sense the tension. You notice the softening. You recognize the moments when someone needs space, or support, or simply kindness. And slowly, your way of relating to others becomes more intentional, more grounded, more compassionate. The final truth is perhaps the most important. Reading people is not about gaining an advantage. It's about deepening connection. It's about seeing the fear behind someone's defensiveness, the curiosity behind someone's questions, the uncertainty inside someone's silence, the care behind someone's hesitation. It's about recognizing that everyone you meet is carrying something, a hope, a worry, a story, a wound, a dream. And when you can see just a little more of that truth, you respond with gentleness. Your voice softens, your pace slows, your heart opens. Awareness becomes empathy. Empathy becomes understanding. Understanding becomes connection. This is the true power of the human radar. Not to control people, not to analyze them, but to honor their humanity, with clarity, and with kindness. If you'd like to practice integrating everything you've learned, try this simple, quiet exercise. In your next conversation, choose one moment to pause internally, just for a breath, and observe gently. Notice the eyes, the brows, the mouth, the stillness, the tiny movements that appear before speech. Don't label anything. Don't interpret deeply. Just receive what you see. With time, your perception will become clearer, your presence deeper, and your intuition more naturally aligned with the emotional truth in front of you. This awareness is not something you force. It's something that grows. Softly, quietly, a little more, each day. As we close this chapter, the final episode of Book 1, take a moment to appreciate how far you've come. You've learned to listen with your eyes, to understand the language of the face, to see emotion before words, to honor the quiet signals that live beneath the surface, and most importantly, to approach every person with more kindness from the moment you first see them. This is the beginning of a more intuitive, more empathetic way of moving through the world. A way of seeing people, not just with accuracy, but with heart. Thank you for walking this journey gently, and for choosing to grow just a little better with me. Thank you for spending this quiet journey with me, for listening deeply, and for opening your heart to understanding people in a more gentle, intuitive way. If you'd like to explore these insights further, the full book The Face Never Lies is available on Amazon Kindle. You'll find the link and QR code in the description below. I hope today's chapter helped you see the world just a little more clearly, and helped you grow just a little better. Until our next story, take a slow breath, rest well, and be kind to yourself.